Ladies and gentlemen, friends, today I want to speak about three things that, if you stop doing immediately, will transform your life in ways you never imagined. Sometimes we think the change we need is about adding more effort, more goals, more possessions. But often, the most profound change comes from stopping what's holding us back. The first thing you must stop is comparing yourself with others. Every day we scroll through social media and see people's successes, their happy moments, their wealth travels, and silently our minds whisper, "Oh, why not me? Or why am I behind?" The truth is, comparison is a thief of joy. Your journey is yours alone. Just as no two rivers follow the same path, no two lives should be measured against each other. Instead, focus on your growth, your lessons, and your pace. The second thing is overthinking and worrying about the future. How many nights have we spent awake crafting stories in our mind of what could go wrong? It's like trying to walk with one foot in today and one foot in tomorrow. Eventually, you fall. Life unfolds moment by moment. When you trust the process and act with clarity today, the future often surprises you with blessings. The third thing you must stop is holding grudges and staying angry. Anger is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. Every moment you carry resentment is a moment your happiness is trapped. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself. Let go. Release and you will feel lighter, freer, and more alive. Friends, sometimes life isn't about doing more. It's about stopping the things that weigh you down. Stop comparing, stop overthinking, stop holding anger. Do this and you'll notice a quiet joy, a calm mind, and an unstoppable energy rising from within. Remember, happiness is not a destination. It's a choice you make every day. And sometimes the simplest choice is just to stop doing what's not serving you. Start today, not tomorrow, because every day you delay is a day you let your potential slip by. Comparison is one of the quietest thieves of joy, yet it is so common that we hardly even notice it. Every day we wake up and unconsciously start measuring ourselves against others, against colleagues, friends, acquaintances, or even strangers online. We scroll through social media and see someone posting their achievements, their vacations, their family moments, or their wealth. And immediately our mind whispers, "Oh, am I not like them? Why haven't I achieved that yet? Why is their life better than mine?" And in that instant, without even realizing it, we begin to devalue our own journey, our own efforts, and even our own happiness. But here's the truth. Life is not a competition, and no one's path is identical to yours. Just as no two rivers follow the exact same course, no two lives can or should be measured against each other. The habit of comparison is particularly dangerous because it often starts silently as a thought and then slowly grows into a mindset that governs our self-esteem. You might find yourself thinking, "I'm behind" or "I'm not enough," based on someone else's progress. But remember, you are seeing only a fragment of someone else's life. You see their highlight reel, not the countless struggles, failures, and disappointments that paved their path. And yet, we allow this incomplete perspective to dictate how we feel about ourselves. We overlook our own accomplishments, however small, because they don't seem to match up to someone else's story. Comparison is not just about noticing others. It affects how we act, how we think, and ultimately how we feel. It breeds envy, resentment, and anxiety. It can make us lose focus on our own goals, pulling our energy toward trying to catch up or a measure up rather than nurturing our own growth. Imagine trying to run a marathon while constantly glancing at someone else's pace. You would soon exhaust yourself, lose confidence, and miss the beauty of running your own race. Similarly, when we focus on what others are doing instead of what we are capable of achieving, we are robbing ourselves of both peace and potential. The key to breaking free from comparison is to shift the focus inward. Celebrate your progress, however incremental it may seem. Honor the small victories, the lessons learned, and the personal growth you've achieved, because these are the real indicators of success. Recognize that your journey is unique and that life is a series of seasons. Someone else's spring does not diminish your winter or your autumn. It simply unfolds in its own time. When you embrace your path and appreciate your own steps forward, you create an environment where self-confidence can flourish, gratitude replaces envy, and joy becomes natural rather than conditional. In truth, stopping the habit of comparison is not just about self-esteem. It's about freedom. It's about freedom. Freedom from the constant pressure of measuring yourself against others. Freedom to pursue what truly matters to you, unshaken by the success or failure of those around you. Freedom to be present in your own life, fully immersed in your own journey. The journey. When you stop comparing, you start living. And in that living, you often discover that your life, exactly as it is already enough. Overthinking and worrying about the future is one of the heaviest burdens we carry, often without realizing how much it affects our peace and clarity. We have this habit of sitting with our thoughts and imagining every possible scenario that might happen tomorrow, next week, or even years from now. Our minds create stories, some small, some catastrophic, about what could go wrong, who might judge us, what opportunities we might miss, or what disasters could strike. And the irony is that most of these imagined problems never actually occur. Yet, while we are busy living in these imagined futures, we completely forget to live in the present, the only moment we truly have. Worrying about the future is like trying to walk with one foot in today and one foot in tomorrow. Eventually, you stumble. You lose your balance. You miss the beauty of now. Life, after all, is a sequence of moments, and each moment is a chance to make a choice, to grow, to act, or to connect. When our minds are preoccupied with what ifs, we drain our energy from what truly matters. Opportunities pass by unnoticed because we are too busy rehearsing fears that may never materialize. And yet, even though worrying serves no constructive purpose, we cling to it as if it somehow prepares us for what's ahead. The danger of overthinking is that it creates paralysis. We plan endlessly, analyze every possibility, and wait for the perfect moment to act. But life rarely gives us perfect moments. What it gives us are imperfect moments full of possibilities and the courage to act in spite of uncertainty. Action, even if imperfect, is infinitely more valuable than hours spent spinning in a web of hypothetical problems. The more you overthink, the more you delay, and the more you lose your sense of agency. You forget that the future is built not by worrying, but by the steps you take today. Breaking free from overthinking requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust that life has a way of unfolding in ways often better than you imagine. It requires a shift from a what if something goes wrong to what can I do right now. Instead of imagining failures, focus on your next step. Instead of predicting the storm, build your shelter. Each small, deliberate action you take in the present reduces anxiety about the future because you realize that you are not helpless. You are capable, resourceful, and prepared to handle what comes. Worry may seem like planning, but it is planning without action. It is a weight you carry for no reason, a burden with no pay. Imagine how much lighter life would feel if you devoted that energy to learning, creating, helping, or simply being present. Imagine how much clearer your mind would be if you focused on today rather than trying to control tomorrow. When you stop overthinking and worrying about the future, you gain clarity, focus, and inner peace. You find yourself acting with intention, making better decisions, and appreciating life as it is, rather than as a projection of fear. In truth, life unfolds in the present. The future cannot be controlled, but your actions today shape it. By letting go of worry and overthinking, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your joy. You start to live fully, knowing that you are prepared to face whatever comes, not because you have imagined it all, but because you have lived well today. Guarding grudges and carrying anger is one of the heaviest burdens a human heart can bear. Often, we think that holding on to anger is a way of protecting ourselves, a way of ensuring that those who have hurt us pay for their actions. We replay moments of betrayal, criticism, or injustice over and over in our minds, convincing ourselves that this memory keeps us safe or gives us strength. But in reality, anger and resentment do not punish anyone but ourselves. It is like holding a hot coal in your hand, expecting someone else to get burned, only to realize that it is your own hand that hurts. When we cling to anger, we allow the past to dominate our present. Every interaction, every thought, and every decision becomes colored by this bitterness. It saps our energy, clouds our judgment, and often prevents us from fully experiencing the beauty of life around us. We become prisoners of events that have already occurred, chained to feelings that serve no constructive purpose. Keeps us tied to people, events, or circumstances long after they have passed, and in doing so, it prevents us from moving forward, growing, and evolving. Forgiveness is not about condoning what happened, nor is it about letting someone else off the hook. It is about freeing yourself. When you forgive, you are not changing the past, you are reclaiming your future. You are telling yourself that your peace, your happiness, and your life are far more important than any grievance. It is an act of courage because it requires you to rise above pride, resentment, and the desire for revenge. It is a conscious decision to let go of what is weighing you down, to stop letting anger dictate your life, and to create space for joy, love, and clarity. The power of releasing anger is profound. When we let go, we open ourselves to inner freedom. We begin to see situations more clearly without the distortion of emotion. Relationships, even if they cannot be restored, no longer carry the toxic weight of unresolved resentment. We find ourselves responding to life with calmness rather than reaction, wisdom rather than bitterness. Life becomes lighter, simpler, and more beautiful because we are no longer dragging around unnecessary baggage. Holding grudges is often rooted in the illusion that we can control others' actions or that we need to win in some moral sense. But life is not about keeping score. Every day spent in anger is a day spent not fully lived. Every moment we spend plotting revenge or dwelling on injustice is a moment stolen from our potential, our growth, and our peace. Letting go does not make us weak, it makes us strong. It gives us clarity, emotional resilience, and the freedom to focus on what truly matters, our dreams, our relationships, and our own growth. In essence, stopping anger and releasing grudges is not a favor to others, it is a gift to ourselves. It is a choice to prioritize peace over pride, healing over hurt, and love over resentment. When we embrace forgiveness, we reclaim our energy, our joy, and our life. And in doing so, we realize that true freedom comes not from controlling the world or holding on to the past, but from letting go and allowing our hearts to soar. But one of the most subtle yet destructive habits we carry is the constant need for external validation. From the moment we are young, society teaches us to seek approval, to be praised for our achievements, acknowledged for our choices, and recognized for our worth. At first, it seems harmless. A compliment here, a pat on the back there, and we feel good. But over time, reliance on external approval can grow into a habit that quietly controls our thoughts, decisions, and emotions. We begin to measure our value by how others perceive us rather than by how we see ourselves. When you are constantly seeking validation, you lose touch with your own inner compass. You start asking, will they like this? Or will they approve? Or will they think I'm worthy? Your choices are no longer truly yours. They are influenced often unconsciously by the desire for acceptance. You might say yes when you want to say no, or follow a path that is convenient rather than meaningful. Over time, this creates a life built on pleasing others instead of honoring your own purpose, and it slowly erodes self-confidence. The irony is that the approval we seek from the world is never permanent. Praise fades, opinions change, and people's attention shifts. Basing your happiness on something so fleeting is like building a house on sand. It will not stand. True confidence and inner strength come from within, from the quiet voice inside that knows your worth, your potential, and your values. When you stop seeking validation externally, you start listening to that voice, and it becomes a guide far more reliable than any external measure. Raising the need for external approval is not about becoming selfish or disconnected from others. It is about reclaiming autonomy over your life. It means making choices based on what aligns with your purpose, principles, and passion, rather than on what will make others think well of you. A chore. It is about honoring your journey, even when it looks different from what others expect. When you act from this place, you attract genuine respect and admiration, not because you are performing, but because you are authentic. Seeking validation also hinders growth. When we rely on others' opinions to guide our actions, we avoid risks, avoid mistakes, and avoid failure. But growth comes from stepping into the unknown, from trusting ourselves, and from learning through experience. When you release the need to be constantly judged, you give yourself permission to explore, to experiment, and to evolve without fear. You become resilient, adaptable, and confident in the face of life's uncertainties. Ultimately, stopping the habit of seeking external validation frees you to live a life that is truly yours. You begin to value your own voice, your own choices, and your own worth. You develop self-respect, inner peace, and a clarity that cannot be shaken by criticism or praise. Life becomes lighter, more joyful, and more fulfilling because you are no longer a prisoner of others' opinions. You are the author of your own story. When you choose to validate yourself from within, you unlock the power to live authentically, fearlessly, and joyfully. One of the most common ways we hold ourselves back is by living in the past. Often, we carry memories of mistakes, regrets, or missed opportunities as if they are weights tied to our hearts. We replay moments over and over, thinking about what we could have done differently, or wishing things had turned out another way. Sometimes it is guilt, sometimes it is sorrow, and sometimes it is simply the habit of nostalgia. But no matter the reason, living in the past keeps us from experiencing the present fully and blocks the potential of the future. When we focus excessively on what has already happened, we are giving our energy and attention to something we cannot change. It is like trying to drive a car while staring constantly in the rearview mirror. You may see where you've been, but your direction, your speed, and your safety all depend on looking forward. Every moment we spend dwelling on yesterday is a moment we lose in building today. The past can teach us lessons, yes, but it should not imprison us. If we allow it to dominate our thoughts, we carry unnecessary emotional baggage, and it subtly shapes our decisions in ways that limit our growth. One of the most damaging aspects of living in the past is regret. Regret whispers in our ears, if only I had, or oh, why did I? It can make us feel stuck as if the mistakes of yesterday define who we are today. But mistakes are not chains, they are stepping stones. Every experience, even the painful ones, carries wisdom. When we choose to acknowledge our past without letting it dictate our present, we transform regret into learning. We turn every failure into guidance, every disappointment into insight, and every wrong choice into an opportunity to do better next time. Another common element of living in the past is resentment. We might hold on to moments where we were wronged or hurt, thinking that keeping the memory alive somehow balances the injustice. But resentment does not change the past, it only poisons the present. It keeps our hearts heavy, our minds distracted, and our spirits burdened. To move forward, we must let go. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means releasing the hold that the past has over our emotions so we can live freely in today. Breaking free from the past requires conscious effort. It begins with awareness, recognizing when our thoughts are fixated on what has already occurred. It continues with forgiveness for ourselves and for others, releasing guilt, blame, and anger that keep us tethered. And it culminates in a shift of focus toward the present moment, toward the choices we can make now, and the life we can create starting today. Every action, every decision, every moment we embrace in the present is a chance to rewrite our story, independent of what has come before. Living fully in the present does not erase the past, it transforms it. It allows us to carry lessons without carrying the weight of pain. It allows us to move forward with clarity, hope, and confidence. By stopping the habit of dwelling on what cannot be changed, we free ourselves to embrace life as it is, to pursue our dreams, and to find joy in moments we might otherwise overlook. When we release the past, we unlock the door to a future full of possibilities, and we finally begin to live fully, freely, and consciously. One of the most silent enemies of progress and happiness is the pursuit of perfection. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to believe that perfection is the standard we must meet. Perfect grades, perfect work, perfect appearance, perfect relationships. On the surface, this seems admirable. After all, striving for excellence can motivate us. But when the pursuit of perfection becomes an obsession, it stops being a tool and starts being a prison. Perfectionism is a trap because it sets a standard that is impossible to achieve. And in doing so, it often robs us of joy, creativity, and fulfillment. When we chase perfection, we are never satisfied. Even when we achieve what we set out to do, our minds find flaws, shortcomings, or ways it could have been better. This relentless internal criticism becomes a companion, whispering that we are not enough, that our work is insufficient, and that our efforts are inadequate. It creates stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. The truth is, nothing and no one in life is perfect. Clouds have edges, rivers have stones, and people have flaws. And yet, all of this is what makes life rich, beautiful, and real. By clinging to perfection, we are essentially rejecting the natural, imperfect beauty of life itself. Perfectionism also paralyzes action. We hesitate to start projects, to speak up, to pursue opportunities, or to take risks because we are waiting for the perfect moment or striving to make our efforts flawless. But life rarely offers perfect moments. Waiting for perfection often leads to procrastination and missed opportunities. It prevents us from learning, growing, and experiencing life fully because we are afraid of failure or judgment. Ironically, perfectionism is often rooted in fear, the fear of being criticized, rejected, or seen as inadequate. In our quest to appear perfect, we hide our true selves, and in doing so, we deny the world the chance to see our unique gifts. The path to freedom lies in embracing imperfection. Progress is better than perfection. Action is better than hesitation. Growth is better than flawless performance. Every mistake we make, every challenge we face, every moment of vulnerability is an opportunity to learn and to improve. When we let go of the impossible standard of perfection, we give ourselves permission to explore, to create, and to express ourselves authentically. Life becomes less about measuring up and more about moving forward. Perfectionism also affects our relationships. We expect others to meet unrealistic standards, and when they inevitably fall short, we become frustrated or disappointed. By releasing the need for perfection, we cultivate empathy, patience, and understanding. We begin to appreciate people for who they are, not for how closely they match our expectations. Similarly, we start to treat ourselves with compassion, recognizing that our worth is not defined by flawless achievements, but by the effort, love, and sincerity we bring into the world. Ultimately, stopping the pursuit of perfection frees us to live fully. It allows us to embrace mistakes as teachers, challenges as opportunities, and life as it is, imperfect, unpredictable, and beautiful. By letting go of perfection, we discover joy in progress, satisfaction in effort, and peace in knowing that we are enough just as we are. We learn that excellence does not require flawlessness, and that happiness does not demand perfection. It only requires presence, courage, and a willingness to be human. One of the greatest barriers to success, growth, and happiness is the fear of failure. From early on, we are conditioned to avoid mistakes, to perform well, and to succeed in ways that are visible and measurable. While this can encourage responsibility, it also plants a deep fear in our hearts. The fear that if we fail, we are inadequate, unworthy, or incapable. But the truth is, failure is not the enemy. It is an essential part of life, growth, and achievement. The moment we stop fearing it, we unlock our true potential. Fear of failure often manifests as hesitation. We avoid opportunities, delay decisions, or decline challenges because we are worried about making mistakes or being judged. We tell ourselves, I'll try when I'm ready, or I don't want to risk embarrassment. And in doing so, we miss the chance to learn, to grow, and to experience life fully. Every great achievement in history has been preceded by multiple failures, mistakes, and setbacks. The most successful people did not avoid failure. They embraced it, learned from it, and kept moving forward. Failure is, in fact, a teacher disguised as disappointment. It shows us what does not work, reveals areas where we need improvement, and encourages resilience and creativity. Without failure, we cannot truly appreciate success because we would have no contrast, no depth, no understanding of what it took to get there. By fearing failure, we deny ourselves the very lessons that shape character, wisdom, and courage. Every misstep is a stepping stone, every mistake an opportunity to recalibrate, and every setback a moment to grow stronger. Moreover, the fear of failure often creates self-doubt. We begin to question our abilities, second-guess our choices, and shrink from challenges that could transform our lives. But self-doubt is not an indicator of incapacity. It is a signal that we are stepping out of our comfort zone, entering a space where growth happens. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means taking action despite fear. The people who achieve greatness are not those who never fail, but those who do not let failure stop them. They move forward, learn, adapt, and try again. To stop fearing failure, we need to redefine our perspective. Failure is not a verdict on our worth. It is feedback on our journey. It is temporary, specific, and instructive. When we see failure as part of the process rather than a final judgment, it loses its power to paralyze us. We start to take action, experiment, and embrace challenges without the constant weight of anxiety. We begin to celebrate effort, perseverance, and courage, not just outcomes. Ultimately, letting go of the fear of failure frees us to live boldly. We take risks, pursue our dreams, and embrace opportunities we might have otherwise avoided. Life becomes richer, fuller, and more meaningful because we are no longer limited by the what ifs of imagined disasters. We discover that failing is not falling, it is moving forward with learning, wisdom, and resilience. By releasing the fear of failure, we step into the fullness of our potential, and we begin to live a life defined not by hesitation, but by courage, growth, and purpose. One of the most common traps in life is a desire to please everyone around us. From a young age, we are taught to seek approval, avoid conflict, and maintain harmony, often at the expense of our own happiness and authenticity. While kindness and consideration are virtues, constantly prioritizing others' expectations over your own needs and values can be deeply damaging. The moment we make everyone else's satisfaction the measure of our worth, we lose touch with ourselves, our goals, and our inner peace. Trying to please everyone is exhausting. It requires us to constantly monitor our behavior, words, and choices, wondering if someone will approve or criticize. It pulls us in multiple directions, forcing compromises that may not align with our principles. We might say yes when we want to say no, change our opinions to avoid disagreement, or suppress our desires to fit in. Over time, this erodes our sense of self. We start to define ourselves not by who we truly are, but by the expectations and approval of others. And in this pursuit of acceptance, we often overlook our own dreams, passions, and values. The irony is that pleasing everyone is impossible. No matter how hard we try, there will always be someone who disagrees, criticizes, or misunderstands us. Life is full of diverse opinions, desires, and judgments, and it is unrealistic to think we can satisfy all of them. When we base our self-worth on others' approval, we give away our power and allow external forces to dictate our emotions and decisions. True freedom, fulfillment, and peace come from aligning with your own values and being comfortable with who you are rather than chasing the fleeting and inconsistent approval of others. Trying to please everyone also stifles growth and authenticity. Growth requires making difficult decisions, standing by your principles, and sometimes disappointing people who disagree with your choices. Authenticity means expressing your true thoughts, desires, and feelings, even if it is not always convenient or popular. When we prioritize others' approval above our own integrity, we deny ourselves the opportunity to evolve, take risks, and live fully. We become actors in a play written by others instead of authors of our own story. Breaking free from this habit begins with self-awareness. Notice when your actions are driven by fear of judgment rather than by your own values or desires, reflect on your goals, passions, and boundaries and make decisions that honor them. Accept that it is okay to say no, to disappoint, or to disagree when it aligns with your truth. Remember, the people who truly care for you will respect your authenticity. Those who do not were never meant to define your happiness. Ultimately, stopping the habit of trying to please everyone is a gift to yourself. It allows you to reclaim your energy, focus on what matters most, and live in alignment with your values. Life becomes lighter, decisions become clearer, and joy becomes more natural because you are no longer weighed down by the constant pressure of seeking approval. By prioritizing your own integrity and authenticity, you not only empower yourself, but also inspire others to do the same. Freedom, fulfillment, and peace are born when you stop living to meet everyone else's expectations and start living to honor your own path. One of the most liberating changes you can make in life is to stop wasting time and energy on things you cannot control. Often we spend countless hours worrying about circumstances, people, or outcomes that are beyond our influence. We get anxious over events that may or may not happen, fret over other people's opinions, or try to micromanage situations that are ultimately not ours to manage. And yet we convince ourselves that this is responsibility or diligence, when in reality it is a slow drain on our energy, focus, and peace of mind. Focusing on what we cannot control creates unnecessary stress. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with heavy stones, each one representing a situation or person outside your sphere of influence. Every day, every decision, every moment of worry adds weight to the load until it becomes exhausting to move forward. The truth is, no amount of fretting or overthinking can change someone else's actions, the outcome of certain events, or the unpredictability of life. Yet we often tie our happiness, peace, and sense of security to these uncontrollable factors, setting ourselves up for disappointment and frustration. The habit of trying to control the uncontrollable also prevents us from taking effective action where it truly matters. E. While we are caught up in worrying about external forces, we neglect our own responsibilities, growth, and opportunities. Energy spent on things outside our influence is energy wasted. Conversely, when we focus on what we can control, our choices, our actions, our mindset, and our responses, we gain power, clarity, and momentum. Life becomes less about reacting to chaos and more about shaping our own path with intention and purpose. Learning to let go of what we cannot control requires acceptance and discernment. Acceptance does not mean passivity or surrender. It means recognizing reality as it is rather than as we wish it to be. It means understanding the difference between influence and congruence and control, between action and obsession. When you accept that some things are beyond your reach, you free your mind from the cycle of worry and your heart from unnecessary burden. You begin to channel your energy into areas where your efforts can make a real difference. This shift in perspective also cultivates peace and resilience. Life is unpredictable, full of surprises, challenges, and circumstances we cannot foresee. When we stop resisting this reality, we develop the ability to flow with life rather than be battered by it. Stress and anxiety decrease, decision-making improves, and clarity emerges. You start to understand that your happiness, success, and inner calm do not depend on external factors, but on how you choose to respond to them. Ultimately, stopping the habit of wasting time on things you cannot control is an act of self-liberation. And it allows you to reclaim your energy, focus on meaningful actions, and experience life with greater peace and confidence. You learn to invest your time where it matters, to act where you have influence, and to release what is beyond your reach. Freedom, clarity, and joy arise when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and start living with purpose, acceptance, and mindful focus on what is truly within your power. One of the greatest obstacles to living a fulfilled and authentic life is the fear of what others think of us. From childhood, we are taught to seek approval, avoid criticism, and fit into societal expectations. At first, this seems natural and even helpful. It encourages politeness, cooperation, and empathy. But as we grow, this fear can take over, silently shaping our decisions, curbing our dreams, and limiting the expression of our true selves. When we live in constant concern for others' opinions, we are no longer free. We are prisoners of judgment, validation, and imagined expectations. The fear of judgment often prevents us from taking action, speaking up, or pursuing what we truly desire. We hesitate to follow our passions, try new things, or express our thoughts because we imagine disapproval, ridicule, or rejection. It is like walking through life with invisible chains where every step is weighed down by the imagined criticism of others. But the truth is, people's opinions are often fleeting, subjective, and based on their own perceptions, experiences, and biases. Letting these opinions dictate your choices is to give away your power and your life to forces you cannot control. Living with this fear also limits authenticity. When we mold ourselves to meet others' expectations, we start to lose sight of who we really are. We adopt behaviors, choices, and appearances that are not true reflections of our values, passions, or dreams. Over time, this disconnect between our inner self and outer actions breeds dissatisfaction, stress, and a sense of emptiness. True happiness and fulfillment arise when we honor our inner voice, act in alignment with our values, and allow ourselves to be authentic, regardless of external judgment. The irony is that most people are far more focused on themselves than on us. Their judgments, criticisms, and opinions are fleeting moments in their own lives, while we often give them permanent power over ours. Recognizing this truth is liberating. Uncertainty is not a threat. It is an opportunity. It is a chance to explore, to grow, and to discover what is possible. It is the doorway to experiences we could never have anticipated, lessons we could never have learned, and achievements we could never have imagined. Each small step we take into uncertainty builds courage, confidence, and momentum. We begin to understand that life's richness lies not in predictability, but in embracing the unknown with faith in our ability to navigate it. Ultimately, stopping the habit of letting the unknown control you is an act of empowerment. It allows you to live boldly, make decisions courageously, and pursue your dreams without being paralyzed by what you cannot foresee. Life becomes an adventure rather than a routine, a series of opportunities rather than a series of fears. By releasing the fear of the unknown, we reclaim our freedom, our potential, and our joy. We step into a life defined not by hesitation, but by courage, exploration, and the willingness to embrace the endless possibilities that await beyond our comfort zone. One of the most significant obstacles to personal growth and happiness is the habit of blaming others for our circumstances. It is easy to point fingers when things go wrong, at our parents, teachers, friends, colleagues, or even society at large. We convince ourselves that our failures, setbacks, or disappointments are the result of someone else's actions, decisions, or limitations. While accountability in systems or relationships is important, consistently blaming others for our personal life situation is a choice that robs us of power, responsibility, and progress. Blame is comfortable because it shifts the burden away from us. When we blame someone else, we avoid examining our own role, choices, or mindset. We can stay stuck in the victim mentality, believing that life is happening to us rather than recognizing that we have the ability to shape it. The problem with this approach is that while we focus on what others did or did not do, we lose sight of what we can actually do to improve our situation. Energy spent on blame is energy wasted. It accomplishes nothing, builds no skills, and creates no solutions. Blaming others also limits our personal growth. True growth comes from self-reflection, learning, and accountability. Every challenge, setback, or hardship carries a lesson if we are willing to look inward. When we assign responsibilities solely to external factors, we deny ourselves the opportunity to learn from mistakes, to adjust strategies, and to develop resilience. Growth is not about the world being fair. It is about how we respond to what life presents. What? The moment we stop blaming others and start focusing on what we can control, we take the first step toward empowerment and transformation. Moreover, constantly blaming others affects our relationships and mindset. It fosters resentment, bitterness, and a negative outlook on life. It distances us from those around us and prevents us from building trust and cooperation. It also conditions our mind to seek excuses rather than solutions, creating a cycle of stagnation. On the other hand, taking responsibility without guilt or shame creates a mindset of ownership, accountability, and possibility. It allows us to approach challenges with creativity and courage rather than frustration and complaint. Breaking free from the habit of blaming others requires self-awareness and honesty. We must recognize the moments when we shift responsibility away from ourselves and ask, what can I do differently? What part of this is within my control? It requires a conscious decision to stop wasting energy on external factors and instead focus on action, growth, and solutions. It also involves cultivating resilience, understanding that life will not always go according to plan, and that setbacks are opportunities to learn rather than reasons to complain. Ultimately, stopping the habit of blaming others is liberating. It restores your power, gives clarity, and empowers you to take action to improve your life. When you accept responsibility for your choices and circumstances, you are no longer a passive participant. You become the author of your story. Life becomes less about who caused your problems and more about how you solve them. By letting go of blame, you unlock the ability to grow, evolve, and create the life you desire. Because you understand that the only true control you have is over yourself, your actions, and your mindset. Freedom, peace, and progress come not from blaming others, but from taking ownership and moving forward with purpose. One of the most damaging habits we can develop is allowing negativity to control our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Negativity comes in many forms: critical self-talk, pessimistic thinking, toxic relationships, or constant exposure to distressing news. It seeps into our minds, quietly shaping how we perceive the world, ourselves, and our possibilities. Over time, negativity becomes a lens through which we view life, making even ordinary challenges seem insurmountable and ordinary joys feel fleeting. When we let negativity dictate our lives, we rob ourselves of peace, happiness, and the energy needed to create a fulfilling life. Negativity is often rooted in fear, doubt, and habit. We dwell on past mistakes, worry excessively about the future, or allow external circumstances to determine our mood. We replay conversations where we felt criticized, focus on outcomes that went wrong, or compare ourselves unfavorably to others. In doing so, we reinforce a mindset of limitation and scarcity, convincing ourselves that life is more difficult, unfair, or hopeless than it truly is. The truth is, negativity is rarely a reflection of reality. It is a distorted interpretation shaped by fear and habit. Allowing negativity to dominate our thinking affects not only our mental state but also our actions. When we expect the worst, we hesitate to take risks, avoid opportunities, and limit our growth. Negativity fosters indecision, inaction, and a sense of helplessness. It also spreads to others, affecting relationships and creating an environment of tension and pessimism. On the other hand, when we consciously choose positivity, hope, and gratitude, we empower ourselves to act, to create, and to inspire. Our mindset becomes a tool for growth rather than a trap that confines us. Breaking free from negativity requires conscious effort. It begins with self-awareness, recognizing the thoughts, words, and patterns that pull us into pessimism. It continues with intentional practice, challenging negative thoughts, focusing on solutions instead of problems, and surrounding ourselves with people, environments, and information that uplift rather than drain. Gratitude, mindfulness, and reflection become powerful allies in this process. They remind us of the good that already exists, the opportunities within challenges, and the strength we have to overcome difficulties. Choosing to release negativity is not about ignoring reality or pretending that life has no challenges. It is about choosing how we respond, what we focus on, and which thoughts we nurture. Life will always have obstacles, setbacks, and disappointments, but the perspective we bring to them determines whether they become sources of growth or sources of despair. By consciously rejecting negativity, we create space for creativity, resilience, joy, and meaningful connections. Ultimately, stopping the habit of letting negativity dictate your life is an act of empowerment. It allows you to reclaim your energy, focus on what truly matters, and approach challenges with clarity and optimism. Life becomes richer, more vibrant, and more fulfilling when your mindset is guided by positivity, hope, and constructive action rather than by fear, doubt, and pessimism. By choosing to focus on what is uplifting, inspiring, and possible, you step into a life of greater joy, strength, and purpose, free from the chains of negativity that hold so many people back. One of the most damaging habits we can develop is allowing negativity to control our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Negativity comes in many forms: critical self-talk, pessimistic thinking, toxic relationships, or constant exposure to distressing news. It seeps into our minds quietly, shaping how we perceive the world, ourselves, and our possibilities. Over time, negativity becomes a lens through which we view life, making even ordinary challenges seem insurmountable and ordinary joys feel fleeting. When we let negativity dictate our lives, we rob ourselves of peace, happiness, and the energy needed to create a fulfilling life. Negativity is often rooted in fear, doubt, and habit. We dwell on past mistakes, worry excessively about the future, or allow external circumstances to determine our mood. We replay conversations where we felt criticized, focus on outcomes that went wrong, or compare ourselves unfavorably to others. In doing so, we reinforce a mindset of limitation and scarcity, convincing ourselves that life is more difficult, unfair, or hopeless than it truly is. The truth is, negativity is rarely a reflection of reality. It is a distorted interpretation shaped by fear and habit, earned habit. Allowing negativity to dominate our thinking affects not only our mental state, but also our actions. When we expect the worst, we hesitate to take risks, avoid opportunities, and limit our growth. Negativity fosters indecision, inaction, and a sense of helplessness. It also spreads to others, affecting relationships and creating an environment of tension and pessimism. On the other hand, when we consciously choose positivity, hope, and gratitude, we empower ourselves to act, to create, and to inspire. Our mindset becomes a tool for growth rather than a trap that confines us. Breaking free from negativity requires conscious effort. It begins with self-awareness, recognizing the thoughts, words, and patterns that pull us into pessimism. It continues with intentional practice, challenging negative thoughts, focusing on solutions instead of problems, and surrounding ourselves with people, environments, and information that uplift rather than drain. Gratitude, mindfulness, and reflection become powerful allies in this process. They remind us of the good that already exists, the opportunities within challenges, and the strength we have to overcome difficulties. Choosing to release negativity is not about ignoring reality or pretending that life has no challenges. It is about choosing how we respond, what we focus on, and which thoughts we nurture. Life will always have obstacles, setbacks, and disappointments. But the perspective we bring to them determines sources of growth or sources of despair. By consciously rejecting negativity, we create space for creativity, resilience, joy, and meaningful connections. Ultimately, stopping the habit of letting negativity dictate your life is an act of empowerment. It allows you to reclaim your energy, focus on what truly matters, and approach challenges with clarity and optimism. Life becomes richer, more vibrant, and more fulfilling when your mindset is guided by positivity, hope, and constructive action, rather than by fear, doubt, and pessimism. By choosing to focus on what is uplifting, inspiring, and possible, you step into a life of greater joy, strength, and purpose, free from the chains of negativity that hold so many people back.